All right, think about this for a second. Inside every single one of your cells, and there are trillions of them, there's this master blueprint, DNA. But how in the world does a simple code made of just 4 letters build something as incredibly complex as, well, you? That's the amazing story we're going to dive into today.
And it's a really good question, right? We've all heard about this code of life, but how does it go from being, just code on a microscopic strand to something real? Like actually determining your hair color or how tall you get, or even the little enzymes that are right now breaking down the food you ate for lunch.
So, the easiest way to wrap your head around this is to picture a giant, non-stop construction project. I mean, it's happening inside you right now. In this analogy, your DNA is the master blueprint, the one copy that's kept super safe, locked away in the main office. And all of your cells, they're the bustling construction sites, working 24/7.
And this right here, this is the whole journey in a nutshell. It all kicks off with DNA. But since the DNA can't leave the office, a temporary copy of the instructions, we call that mRNA, is made and sent out. That copy gets read to build a protein, and bam! It's the protein that does the actual work, creating a physical trait. This is literally the story of how you're built, second by second.
Okay, so just like any good construction project, we have to start with the master plan, the blueprint itself. So let's head into the cellular head office, which is, of course, the nucleus. So inside that nucleus is your DNA, and it's got the instructions for absolutely everything your body needs to do. But here's the catch. There's a pretty big problem. The DNA molecule itself is massive. It's way too big and way too important to ever leave the safety of the nucleus. So how do you get those crucial instructions out to all those construction sites?
Now, before we answer that, we first need to understand how to even read this blueprint. The code isn't read one letter at a time. Instead, it's read in little 3-letter words called triplets. And each triplet is a very specific instruction, kind of like a command that says, hey, add this exact building block, which is an amino acid, to the thing we're building.
So, back to our big problem. How do you get the plans from the super secure head office out to the work site? Well, the cell has a really clever solution. It doesn't send the original, it sends a messenger with a copy. And that messenger has a name, messenger RNA, or just mRNA for short. Think of it as a small, nimble courier. Its entire job, its whole purpose, is to create a copy of just one specific set of instructions from the DNA and then ferry that message out of the nucleus. This whole process of copying the message is called transcription. It's pretty straightforward, and it happens in 3 basic steps. First, a special enzyme comes along and unzips the part of the DNA that has the gene we need. Then, RNA building blocks float in and pair up with the exposed DNA strand, creating our mRNA copy. And finally, once the copy is complete, the new mRNA molecule just peels off and zips out of the nucleus on its mission. And here you can see it all happening. You've got the DNA double helix separating. See that? Then the mRNA molecule is built along one of those strands. And then, this is the important part, the finished copy peels away and leaves the nucleus through a little gateway. All the while, the original DNA blueprint is zipped back up, perfectly safe and sound inside. Okay, so our messenger made it. The plans have been delivered. We're now out on the factory floor of the cell at a little machine called a ribosome. This is where the real action is. It's where the instructions are finally read and the building actually starts. We call this stage translation.
So how does translation actually work? Well, imagine the mRNA is like a piece of ticker tape being fed through the ribosome machine. As it goes through, these little molecular delivery trucks show up. They're called transfer RNA, or tRNA. Each one is carrying a very specific building block, an amino acid. The tRNA matches up with the code on the mRNA tape, drops off its amino acid, and then the ribosome links that amino acid to the one before it, creating a chain. This diagram is awesome. It shows the whole shebang. So first, the mRNA tape slides into the ribosome. Then, see those tRNA delivery trucks? They pull up with their cargo, the amino acids. Next, they match their code to the code on the mRNA. And finally, you can see the ribosome doing its job, linking those amino acids together one by one, building this amazing protein chain.
So let's recap. We've gone from a secret code locked in the nucleus all the way to a long chain of amino acids out in the cell. But how does that simple chain actually become, well, you?
This is the truly magical part. As soon as that chain is released from the ribosome, it doesn't just stay a floppy string. It spontaneously folds up into a really complex and totally unique 3D shape.
And it's that final shape that gives the protein its job. It's what makes it an enzyme, or the keratin that makes up your hair, or the hemoglobin that carries oxygen in your blood. The shape is everything.
And just like that, we've come full circle. We started with the DNA blueprint. That was transcribed into an mRNA message. That message was translated by a ribosome to build a protein. And it's that final, folded protein that actually does something, creating a physical trait. It's just an incredibly elegant and powerful system, going from a simple code to a complex function.
So let's just quickly run through the key players one more time, using our construction analogy. You've got the DNA, that's the blueprint, the mRNA, that's our messenger, the ribosome, that's the factory, and the protein, that's the finished product, the thing that actually builds you.
Now, this whole amazing, intricate dance relies on the blueprint being copied perfectly every single time, which of course leads to a really fascinating question. What happens when there's a typo, a tiny mistake in the DNA code? Well, that one little change can alter the entire story, but that, my friends, is a topic for another day.